Welcome to a new edition of WION Podcast. Now, India-Germany share close relationship. This is a month with big developments, whether it's the big business meeting or visit of the German chancellor. With me is the Director General of the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. So, welcome to WION. My first question to you is about the big business meeting, the Asia-Pacific German business meeting, which is going to happen here in Delhi. How significant it is, if you can talk in details about the participation of the German side.
Yeah, the Asia-Pacific Conference of the German business is a conference that happens every 2 years, and it travels from one Asian capital to the other Asian capital, and it is co-organized by the Asia-Pacific Association of the German Industry and the Federal Ministry of Economy and Climate Action. So it is co-chaired by our minister, Robert Habeck, and by the APA chairman, who is currently Siemens CEO Roland Busch. And basically every 2 years, we invite up to 800 delegates from government, from the industry, from Germany, in this case, of course, now primarily India, but the whole Asia-Pacific Indo-Pacific region, and the idea is really to provide a platform where we bring industry representatives from Germany to the region to speak about the region and also, of course, the global challenges that we see right now. So, and it goes across all sectors, company sizes, and that's a 2-day conference that we organize. And as Indo-German Chamber, we are the local co-hosts. So we are basically the organizational force on the ground to make sure that everything works out well.
Director General Halusa, my second question to you is about the conference. Is the last time the meeting happened in Singapore? When it comes to choosing Delhi as the location of this meeting, why India and why Delhi? If you can talk about that.
I think that's almost obvious, I would say. We decided that already 2 years ago. And that was in the context of the geopolitical developments that we saw back then, but also, of course, of the business necessities, the business potential for the German industry. So we pitched in as the Indo-German Chamber for Delhi, and we picked Delhi right away because, I mean, now is the time to be in India as the German industry. Now is the time to really understand the market, to understand what is happening, where is the potential. So this is why we selected India for the 2024 edition of the conference.
Now is the time to be in India. That's an important statement by you. Now, essentially, how do German businesses see India as a destination for investment?
We do a survey every 2 years, recently even every year, to understand what is the motivation of German companies to invest in India. And right now, I think a lot of that has to do with the numbers. India by now is the 5th largest economy in the world. It is the fastest growing major economy in the world, a young aspirational society. And that all basically adds up to say we have to look at India. We cannot avoid it. It would be naive to not look at India to see what are the business potentials there. And you see that across all different sectors, where we speak about automotive, whether we speak about chemicals, pharmaceuticals, machine tools, medical technology. Of course, right now also the topic of renewable energies plays a big role in the bilateral discussions and business discussions as well as governmental discussions. So German companies look at India as an investment destination for the local market, because obviously the local market is very attractive, but increasingly also as a location for R&D facilities to tap into the existing talent pool in India. I mean, GCC, I think, is the term that is being used in India, global capability centers, to have access to that pool and access to talents that we are lacking in Germany now. And this is what makes it so interesting, that it's not only the local market, it is only the resources that you can then use to grow your global business.
Also, political stability. We have a government now which is in its 3rd term, and this is for the first time after decades that India has got a 3rd consecutive term for the same government, for the same Prime Minister as well. So if you can talk about the political leadership, the Indian Prime Minister's role in terms of the investment policies.
Definitely political stability is a factor that is weighted rated very highly by investors, because they want to know that if they invest today, that for the next 5 years, 10 years, the regulatory framework, the political framework will be the same. And I think that pays out very well for India right now, that there is a third term, because we know that we will see continuity. Even if there is now a coalition government in place, we understand as the industry that the priority areas will be the same. There will be a lot of additional investment in the infrastructure, physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, which is something that we as Germany look at primarily because we don't have it on the same level at this moment in time. But also in terms of looking into the workforce. I think there's now an increasing focus of the government into how do we skill up the workforce so that the industrial employment can be created in India. That is, of course, very much needed in India to become a production hub and an export hub for the world. And I think when you look at all of this, continuity is definitely something that works well with investors and that makes them feel as safe as you can be at this point in time in the world.
So when it comes to India versus China, which is the country that the German businesses prefer when it comes to investing? I know it's a relative question, can be a kind of tricky one as well. But if you can talk about your view, we know that there cannot be another China, but essentially India is the 5th largest economy, looking to become the 3rd largest economy. So essentially, what's the perspective by the German businesses?
I think the first important point is for the business to see, and that's the way I always say it, India is India. India cannot and should not be a second China when it comes to that. And of course now the companies look at alternative investment destinations in Asia, and when they look at it, they see that the economy grows fast. It's one of the, in India, as you pointed out, it's number 5 already in terms of the economic size. It's the largest growing, of the fastest growing large major economy in the world. Has a young aspirational society. So it is obvious and very clear that India is going to grow over the next couple of years. And I think now is the time for the German companies who have been focusing on investments in China for quite some time to look at India, and they're doing it. We can see, and we get contacted by many companies, also smaller companies, medium-sized companies in Germany, who are now seeing that there is something happening in India and that they want to be a part of it. And this is why they are reaching out, and they want to understand what is happening in India. And this is what we try to guide them through and say, India, the official policy is, of course, that India wants to become an industrial production hub, an export hub in many areas. And this is an opportunity for German companies to become a part of it. And in that sense, of course, on the regulatory side, it is important that the whole process of importing goods and components and raw materials, processing them in India and then exporting them to the target markets is one smooth process to make it easier for the companies to operate in India. And I think this is on that side something that is important. And then, of course, building up the ecosystems that are required to be successful in this space. So it's the suppliers, it's the machinery that you need. And that is what we see happening across many different sectors in India, and this is what we're telling, and that German companies continuously or increasingly see that this is happening. This is why they are looking at investments in India, and this is why they come to us and say, "Can you help us to better understand, of course, also what is happening in the economy in India at this moment?"
You have pointed out the positive attributes of Indian economy and why businesses should come here, but obviously, there are other aspects as well. You have been pointing to regulatory issues as well. So if you can point to the challenges when it comes to investing in India, we have risen up fast in the World Bank ranking, but of course, there is always a but. So if you can talk about that but.
There's always a but. Yes, I think we Germans are good at that, to find the but. No, but seriously, absolutely correct. India has improved a lot and is continuing to improve. I'm certain about that. When we look at it, of course, when you come from Europe, this is a completely different regulatory framework. You have to get used to it. And this is why it is important to be part of a network that can help you and guide you through this whole process. When we talk to our member companies right now, there's one recurring topic, I would say, that we hear a lot, and that is land acquisition, specifically for smaller companies who don't really have the capacity to go through this process. For them, that is a headache and continues to be a headache. And the other topic right now is really technical barriers of trade. I mean, harmonization of standards, because now there's an increasing number of quality control orders that are being released and announced by the Indian government, and that of course goes along then with the requirement to go through a certification auditing process in accordance with the Bureau of Indian Standards, which is not an unusual process. But we need to give the companies time to go through this. And of course, one topic that we would like to see, whether or not with the FTA, or if it's not within the FTA discussions, then outside of it, is harmonization of standards, because that would help the companies a lot in terms of ease of doing business, that you do not have to go through a separate certification, that there is a mutual recognition of standards, because that will reduce the efforts of the companies in product development and process development. That will reduce cost. At the end of the day, it will help the competitiveness of the Indian industry. So this is, I think, also one area that we are in good discussions with the Indian government, where we also would like to point out what would be alternatives. How can we help the companies? We understand there are some issues, of course, related to consumer protection, and all of that, of course, has to be taken care of. But how can we take this forward? Again, with the competitiveness of the industry in mind.
You mentioned about FTA, and this is something, the India-European Union FTA, this is something that has been going on. And I mean, I was in college, I am now in the job market, but it's still happening, and everyone is hopeful that it will happen one day. Now, talking about the German perspective, what are the issues perhaps from the German side? What do they want when it comes to this wider FTA, which, if it happens, will be something very significant geopolitically as well?
It would be very significant. It would be, I think, a game changer in the business relationships between India and the European Union. Now, one side, of course, we have to see is that on the counterpart of India, we're talking about the European Union, not Germany, because trade pacts are part of the union responsibility. And that is a complex animal, I would say, because 27 countries have to give their mandate to the European Commission. That mandate is, I think, from 2006. And this is, it's very wide. I mean, it includes a lot of topics like sustainability and also business and human rights aspects. And I think as a business, we would prefer to really address the most important topics that impact us as a business and as industries, and that is, again, tariffs and non-technical barriers of trade. And we would very much like to see that we can make progress here, and then, of course, maybe in a second step, also then reach out and see how we can align the other parts as well. But if we make it very complex, there is a great risk that we are seeing right now is that progress is very, very, very slow, and we never come to that first point of really reducing tariffs and technical barriers, because that would have a positive impact on trade, and then you can move on. So I think from an industry perspective, it would be beneficial to see whether we can have a step-by-step approach in that process.
You mentioned about the tariff barriers. Any specific expectations from the auto industry of Germany? Germany is known for its auto industry. India is a huge market. More access here in Indian markets. Is that one of the issues, do you think, between India and Germany, not just in the FTA aspect, but also in the wider aspect of the bilateral business relationship?
The automotive industry is a key industry in Germany, has been for decades. And of course, they're very successful in many markets in the world. And I think, of course, opening up the markets, reducing tariffs would help a great deal, because that would increase the volumes. Volumes bring scale effects, so you can reduce your cost, and that would make it feasible to also produce in India, bring more models to India, give consumers flexibility to India. Prices would go down. So I think this is one thing, one aspect that we would very much like to see, this can be opened up. And I think at the end of the day, again, it will be the consumers who benefit with lower prices. Mm-hmm. Especially, if I may add that, when we look at electric vehicles, because I think this is the next big challenge to make EVs competitive compared to combustion engines. And again, we're talking about scale, and that means opening up the market so that volumes can be sold and produced.
EV is something that is another discussion, especially when it comes to European Union and China. But that discussion is for some other time. But coming back to India and German relationship, now essentially we know the German chancellor is coming for the Intergovernmental Consultations as a business chamber. Any specific recommendations, hopes, expectations from the talks? Any recommendations have you given in terms of the businesses, how things can be more interlinked and there can be ease for both sides?
I think that most of the topics that we would, of course, like to see on the agenda are the ones that I just mentioned. There are two more aspects, I think, or two more topics that I believe will be part of the discussions. One definitely is the collaboration on renewable energies and the transformation to a carbon neutral economy, because both countries have very similar challenges, the dependency on fossil fuels at the moment. So then bringing together technology and funding. I think just recently at RE Invest, the two governments launched a platform to bring together the technology, the stakeholders from that side, as well as the funding. And that hopefully will be one point that can be taken forward. And the other one definitely is skilling and training. Germany has one of the most advanced or the best technical vocational training systems in the world. And I think with India now having the target to increase the number of industrial employments of industrial jobs to be competitive with other countries at large, we need an educated a skilled workforce. And I think it would be great to see that collaboration to go deeper in the area of skilling and training, because also Germany is suffering from a lack of labor. So what we could actually do is skill young Indians on the basis of that German vocational training system and give them the choice to be here to work for the Indian industry or go to Germany and at least work there for a couple of years, because if the education is harmonized, they could have both options. And that is something that we as a chamber work on a lot, and we hope that, of course, that will be part of the agenda as well to take that forward, because I think both countries, as well as the young Indians, would actually benefit from a close collaboration in that area of skilling and training.
So you raise an important point, skilling. Now, essentially, there's a big debate when it comes to immigration in Germany. We know the aspects. There are issues, challenges. But where does the Indian diaspora fits in? Because I have been engaging with the German side, and one thing I have learned from them is that they welcome the Indians for being someone who absorb in the society, take skills, and also give back to the society. So if you can talk about the Indian diaspora's role in terms of enriching the German society, and of course, how the Germans see Indians as immigrants.
When it comes to the important discussion of migration, I think one thing or two things have to be kept separately. This is illegal migration and legal migration. And Indian migration definitely falls under the legal migration. And basically, in Germany, we have a lack of skilled labor in almost every industry, whether it's the medical sector, whether it is hospitality, whether it's the industry, you name it. We need skilled migration into Germany. And what you see when you look specifically at the Indian diaspora, first of all, Indians already make out with almost 50,000 students, make up for the largest student group in Germany. So that is a plus, because then, it's young, you integrate much easier. I mean, when you're at university and you hang out with your co-students, that's the best way of getting integrated to start with. And then in general, I think there is in Germany, Indians are welcome. I mean, this is I think it's one of the best integrated non-European group of migrants in any aspects, and it's actually one of the when you look at the salary level, it's one of the best and most earning migrant group into Germany. So I don't think that there would be any objections from that angle at all.
Now, certain fact-based questions. The presence of the German companies in India, if you can give details on that, and how much employment they are creating here in India, some details.
We estimate, this is not a scientific number, we estimate that there's around 2,000 German companies in India. And this, therefore, also the employment, the direct employment is difficult to judge. Indirect is probably even more. We estimate that it's about 700,000 jobs that are being or having been created by the German industry in the country.
Essentially, what's the outlook in terms of investments by the German companies? How much investments they are planning to invest here in India? I'm pretty sure some numbers will be announced later this month when the meeting happens, the Asia Pacific meeting. But currently, what's the estimate?
There is no estimate in numbers, because what we see is that many of the companies are already here. So they're reinvesting basically their profits that they are generating in India already. And then we have many smaller companies coming to India, and they're basically approaching the market in steps. So they start maybe with a small office, then it's a small assembly facility, then it's a production facility, and they invest step by step. So at the end of the day, they will invest significant money, and they will generate significant employment in India. But it's not like that there's one number that we can up with, because it's a whole number of small investments and follow-up investments that are happening.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to WION. It was lovely speaking to you and getting a hang of how the German businesses see India as an investment destination. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.